How many of you have seen things in the sky that you can't explain? We're not talking about, could that be an airplane? It's moving kind of fast. I'm not talking about something that you're mistaking for something. I'm talking about when you truly see something that you just can't explain. Man, if I made a video about all the times I've seen things in the sky, I don't know how long that video would be. I'd like to share those things. I've seen a lot of things in my life, you guys. I've shared some of them on videos before, but you know, it's just... I just now saw a... How many of you know what tungsten looks like? Have you ever looked up tungsten, the metal? I was just driving just back there, and I didn't have time to get my phone and record it because I was approaching a stoplight, and as I was approaching the stoplight, I'm looking up, and fortunately I have my, you guys can't see it, maybe if I do this, see, that's my, what do you call this? Is it called a skylight on a car? I don't remember what it's called, but you know what I'm saying? So I can see the sky from above. So when I came to the stoplight, I'm watching this thing flying by me up above like a big tungsten ball. It was not a balloon. It wasn't a drone, somebody flying around. Unless there's tungsten ball-shaped drones. And that was, I can't say how big it was, but it wasn't as small as a drone. From the distance it was above my head to where I saw it, I'd probably estimate it to be perhaps the size of, you know those things at the gym, those big workout balls that people use? Almost like the size, almost like a beach ball. You know what a beach ball is, right? Maybe that size, give or take. This thing was just cruising through the sky, and it, see, balloons will float up and go sideways and blow around. No, this thing was coming right toward my direction and went behind me, and I grabbed my phone to film it, and then the light turned green, and I can't do that. It's dangerous. I wouldn't have been able to do it anyway, because you know, my phone, good camera, it's the iPhone 14, good camera and all that, but you would just see a little dot. There are things showing up, you guys. Here in San Diego, we've got what's called Miramar. I think they filmed Top Gun there. Fighter jets, right? I mean, we have that close by, and how these objects could be in the sky. And I've seen things in San Diego. I've seen objects in San Diego. I remember one day where I got out of my car. It was evening time. I got out of my car, just got home from work. I looked up into the sky for some reason, and it's like a window opened up in the sky, like a window, like a portal, maybe a portal, and something was glowing like an electric blue color, and it suddenly, and it was big. It wasn't like seeing a shooting star, you know what they call shooting stars anyway, from far away, which those are beautiful, but no, this was big, electric blue. It's like the sky just opened up like a window, like a portal, and then suddenly it shoots across the sky, heading west toward the ocean. Southwest. It was heading west and south of me. South would be toward Mexico, right, that direction, and then west toward the ocean, and just, and it was gone so fast. I was in Arizona in the year, 2016, I believe. I went to visit my older sister who lives out in Arizona, Sedona, Arizona. And I went to Sedona, and the guy she was dating had an airplane, and he took me up in his airplane, and we went flying over Sedona, Arizona. And he even let me take over the controls, which was like, wow, airplanes are so touchy. It's kind of freaky, you got to follow the instruments for sure. You can't fly with just your eyes. Oh, look at it. You got to follow the instruments, because you could be plummeting 100 feet in just like that. So you follow the instruments. Anyway, and it was really touchy, this thing, but he let me control it for a little bit. I of course didn't land the plane or anything like that, but so we land the plane, he lands the plane. I had a good time. We go to his house. I was there, my sister was there, my dad was there. He went to Arizona to visit me. He didn't want to go flying, but we were all sitting on my sister's boyfriend's porch in front of his house. We were drinking iced tea. It was about 2:30 in the afternoon. Nice sunny warm day. I lean back in my chair, I look up in the sky, and I see these orbs flying by, one after another, after another, after another. And they looked golden, like they were golden, glowing, shining orbs. And I'm watching, I'm like, what are those things? And her boyfriend looks, and I can't see, and he runs in the house and grabs his binoculars and brings them out. He had a really good pair of binoculars, and he's watching, and he says, I don't know. And he hands me the binoculars, and I'm looking, and these things look like if you were to take a ball of glass and hit them with sunlight, and these balls of glass are reflecting sun or something like that. It kind of just looked like that, but I didn't know if it was a reflection or if the light was coming from within them. And they were way up in the atmosphere, way high. They're far away. I was seeing them with my naked eye, but up closer with not telescope, but binoculars. It was really amazing, but I still didn't know what it was. How do you explain that? How do you put it into words when you can't describe something that you don't really see every day? It's like if you were to see a color that doesn't exist. A non-existent color. Not even a color that if you take a little bit of blue and a little bit of red and you blend them together, you get purple. Not even something like that, like a unique color that's been blended together. We're talking about a color of its own that doesn't exist according to what we've seen here. How do you describe that color to somebody? It's kind of bluish, it's pinkish. No, it's not bluish or pinkish or greenish. It's its own thing. So you're having a hard time describing it. And that's how these things were. But I just said kind of like big balls of glass. The same shape as that thing that was just flying, actually. But that didn't look like a ball of glass. It looked like a big ball of tungsten to me. A grayish metallic. So anyway, we see these things. My dad says, yeah, let me see. He has a German accent. His name's Günther. So he grabs the binoculars. He looks up there and he says, yeah, I cannot believe it. Only Michael would see something like this. Calls me Michael. Only Michael would see something like this. The UFOs. And he doesn't believe in UFOs, but he just got to see unidentified flying objects with his very own eyes. And then my sister says, don't you remember when we were kids and Mom took us to the drive-in theater and we were sitting outside of the car in these lawn chairs and we're watching the movie, and there was this little box that had a speaker in it that you would put on like the windshield of your car, the side window, and you'd hang the box in it. That's how we used to do when we go to drive-ins back then. And so we just sat the box out there with us in the lawn chairs, and it was a summer day. We were watching the movie, sitting outside of the car in the drive-in theater, And what flew over the theater and hovered above the theater was what my sister and I, when we were kids, we thought it was a flying Ferris wheel. Like a Ferris wheel flew off of its hinges because there was some kind of carnival or something close by, or a fair, and there's the Ferris wheel and it's flying sideways. It had all these lights around it, and it seemed to be kind of like turning, like spinning and hovering, and then it takes off and disappears. And our mom freaked out. I mean, we had to get in the car, we left, we didn't watch the rest of the movie. It was really terrifying for her. My sister and I didn't understand it. And when my sister said, "Don't you remember that?" and I'm like, "You mean that wasn't a dream? I remember it, but I thought it was just a dream." And she says, "No, we were just not allowed to talk about it. We weren't allowed to mention it." I'm like, I do remember that. I mean, I could share a lot of things, you guys, with you. What's amazing about that experience, though, with my sister's boyfriend is that we see this thing, all of us see it, and then suddenly the conversation stops about it, and nobody's talking about it, it's on to new things. And I couldn't stop thinking about it, and I wanted to talk about it more, and I couldn't believe that. Suddenly, everybody just suddenly switched at the same time, like it just, whatever happened just didn't happen. They just completely blanked out. Well, on to new things, I don't know what that is. Okay, well, true, we don't know what it is, but I like talking about these things. I like investigating these things. Maybe I don't have the answers. Maybe I don't know, but nobody, it was almost like they just didn't want to, they froze up, didn't want to talk about it anymore. Mind erased. Very strange to me. Like I could probably have sat with them for hours and hours and shared things. I mean, I've been called a nut before. You know, people think I make stuff up. Fortunately, most of the time I've seen things, it's been with other people. I have a couple things. I have one thing on my Facebook. Years ago, I filmed an unidentified flying object, but my camera phone didn't do it any justice. But what I saw with my eyes was really incredible. It was a very large, brighter than the moon bright, like a star bright, but it came in from the sky and it lowered down. And I was out in Connecticut at the time. I had gone there for a couple months, and this thing was going across the field. I was out in the middle of nowhere, all woods, and this thing went across the field. I got, you know, there was a big field in front of me, but woods everywhere. And this thing goes across the sky, and it's not flashing lights, and there's zero sound. All I could hear was crickets in the video, and that's all I heard. And this thing didn't have blinking, flashing lights like airplanes, but it was large. Now in the video, it looks like a little tiny thing. My phone didn't do it justice at all. But what I saw with my eyes was something different, and it's going across the field real slow, and then suddenly it's just not there. It blinks out, and that was actually on my I shared it on my Facebook, and I don't have it in my phone storage anymore. I deleted stuff because I would always run out of storage room and couldn't upload it. I couldn't record videos, so I had to delete stuff. Now I have a phone that has a lot of storage, but I'd still probably have to delete things over time, you know, and I don't know how to do the iCloud thing and all that, store up my stuff in that. I don't know how to do it. So anyway, but I saw that. I've seen many more. I'm just describing a couple things that come to mind. Like when I was with my mom's sister, my Aunt Mary, in the ocean when I was a boy, and she and I both saw what you would think is a Loch Ness monster, and it was right in front of us. We were on these rocks, picking abalone shells off these rocks that were out in the water, and this thing's neck came out of the water with its head, and it was chewing on sea grass, and it looked exactly like what you would think a Loch Ness monster, except it wasn't a monster. It wasn't scary looking. It was pretty peaceful, although my aunt, you know, it kind of freaked her out to see something like that suddenly right in front of us. And, you know, and she was from Germany, like like Günther, my stepdad, is from Germany. Well, she's from Germany as well, my mom's sister. And I guess she was, when we were running over to the family there at this other part of the beach, she was yelling in German. I think she was yelling dinosaur in German, whatever that is. Can't remember the word she used, but we saw what we saw, and both of us, when we got home, my parents separated her and I into different bedrooms, gave us paper and pencils, and told us to draw what we saw. And when time was up and we came out of the bedrooms, different rooms, we both drew the same thing. You know, my dad kept saying, maybe you saw a whale. Maybe you saw a whale or an eel or a dolphin. And then we're like, no. Well, I didn't know what to call it. But it's probably one of those plesio, I think is what they call it, plesiosaur. It had a long neck and it had a little head and kind of almost like a giraffe, but not, you know, more tubular neck and not quite as narrow face as a giraffe. But very interesting to see. And I've been blessed to see a lot of different things. I was in Connecticut again. I had moved there in 2012 for a relationship, and then I went back when I moved back to San Diego because the relationship didn't work out, and I came back in 2014, and then in 2016 she and I started talking again, and I moved back out there to give it another shot, and I was only there for a short time and a couple months, and it didn't work out again, and I came back home. And anyway, but the first time I went to so I was telling you about the second time I went out there is when I filmed that thing going across the field. The first time I went out there, when I stayed there for 2 years, I mean, I saw a lot of different things. They don't have what you call light pollution like we would have in San Diego. You drive down these roads in Connecticut, and there's no streetlights. And I'm not used to that. Everything was super dark, no streetlights. You know what I'm saying? Streetlights. Here we have streetlights everywhere. The streets are illuminated. Out there, it was all woods everywhere and darkness everywhere. So the sky, you see the stars much more clear here than here in San Diego. So I'm out in Connecticut. I'm a brand newbie out there. You know, I had to learn how to drive in snow and stuff because I never did that before. They also told me that when I'm out there, you know, there's a lot of different animals, wild animals that run around, like deer and turkey and I think peacocks and pigs, wild pigs, and they said there's bear. And I actually saw a bear one night. The second time I went out there, I was renting a room in this bed and breakfast house. The guy converted his house into a bed and breakfast. You know, if you know what those are, you rent out rooms. And anyway, so I was there for a couple months, and his house was out in the middle of woods. You know, there were other homes out there too, but not close together like here in San Diego, and lots of woods. And he made a golf course, which I just called the field. It was a big golf course he made on his property, and then there's all these woods out there surrounded. And so that's where I saw the thing float above, you know, cruising through the sky with no noise or anything, no sound, just a big bright round light. And so I had just gotten to the house, and it was really dark. It was evening time. There was no porch light on. I couldn't see, so I take my cell phone and I take the mag light in the cell phone and I turn it on so I can see the walkway while I'm walking because it's pitch black. And I hear a rustling to my right. The house is to my left. I'm on this little walkway, and to my right I hear a rustling. And I'm like, what's that? And I take my light and shine, and there's a bear right there, right next to me. And it's got a thing of, do you know what bird seed? Have you ever seen bird feeders? They're cylinder kind of shaped thing, and they put bird seed in them, and the birds come and eat out of the cylinder, the bird seed feeder. So it wasn't like a hummingbird thing with the liquid. It was bird seeds he kept in there. The bear had in its paws the canister of birdseed and was dumping them in its mouth. And I'm like, oh man. And then the bear, when I shined the light on the bear and it caught me, suddenly it's spotted, it took off running. And it was just so cute, man. It looked like a big dog, just the way it ran, stubby legs and all. But it was really cool. A black colored bear, I believe. It was really dark brown. But anyway, so I saw that, and that was cool. And but this other time, when I first went to Connecticut, back to that story, I was so the people warned me about the animals. Be careful about wild animals crossing the road. Deer, they always jump out in front of cars. The girl I was dating, her parents were in a really bad accident that almost killed them because they were driving and a family of deer ran right into their car and wrecked the car and sent them to the hospital. So I'm driving. It's daytime, and I'm going down this road, and to my left is woods, to my right is woods. And I noticed to my right, up ahead, that there's something that's about to come out of the woods and cross the road. So I slow down, I pull over to the side, and I watch a cougar, a mountain lion, step out from the woods and slowly, didn't even look at me. I didn't exist. The car didn't exist. It just cruised across the little road from one side of the woods to the other. And the color of the hair on this thing was the same coloring as the bark on the trees. Like if I were to take my phone and turn it, and can you see these trees right here? You see those trees? It's as if the mountain lion, now I'm not saying it was the color of the trees I just showed you, because these trees here are a little bit different colored than the ones that were out there. But that mountain lion's hair on its body blended so well with the bark of the trees. It was amazing how it can just blend into the environment. It's like people that have talked about seeing Sasquatch, and I've met people in real one-on-one that have that have seen these creatures and described them, and they're not telling stories. One was a doctor, another one was a client of mine that was he traveled to hike. He travels to different places to hike different areas, and he's not hiking anymore, he said. And when I asked him why, he was so scared to talk about it. And even his mom, she says, hey, my son came back, and the guy was close to my age, not quite as old as me, but almost. And he moved from, I think he was in Colorado, I believe. I don't remember. I think Colorado, but he had moved out there. He wanted to do amazing hiking out there. And he moved back with his mom, and he, that dude can't work. He was very depressed. He was very terrified. It's almost like his life changed. And when he was when he got his hair cut, he was very nervous about getting his hair cut, not because of the job I was going to do, just about being out and about. He wanted to stay. She said he's just so depressed and stays inside. Well, anyway, we're talking about this hiking thing he went on, and he said that the guys he went with, he said they came to this spot. They hiked super far up. Took them a long time to get to where they were, their destiny. They set up tents, and some chatter outside of the tents all night long, like this. And he says it was a language. It was definitely a language, but he didn't know what it was. Said it sounded like, the closest thing he could describe was samurai chatter. And I've heard that term used before on different podcasts that I've listened to, podcast interviews I've listened to. The best podcast I could ever do a shout out for you guys to watch is definitely, or listen to, is Sasquatch Chronicles. A friend of mine hosts the show, Wes Germer. He and his brother had an experience that changed their lives and could have messed them up for good. But, they started talking to people later on about it, and it's quite the tale to tell, and Wes is not a liar, and he's not an exaggerator. He's a very amazing person. Best podcaster I've ever listened to. I'd rather listen to him than Joe Rogan, hands down. Nothing against Joe Rogan's podcast, but I love how Wes interviews people. He's just got this awesome quality about him. Wes Germer, Sasquatch Chronicles. So anyway, and this guy I'm telling you about that was in my chair, I got in touch with Wes. Wes said, send the guy his info, and the guy was on Wes's show. So he was interviewed on Sasquatch Chronicles. So that's why I don't want to give away too much. And I don't want to say anything about him. He's a mess now. No, I'm just saying it changed his life, and even his mom was concerned about him. And but I don't think he told her what happened, but he shared it with me finally, because I'm like, hey man, I'll listen, I'll believe you. And so these things outside the tent were making noise, and he heard footsteps, and it sounded like, what bipedal means? Bipedal, two legs, so walking on 2 feet. So I hear these human like footsteps outside the tents, and then suddenly, boom, rocks are being thrown at the tent. Rocks. I don't think bears throw rocks. I don't think there's wild gorillas running around in Colorado that I know of. I don't know what kind of creatures have samurai chatter talk, bipedal footsteps, and throws rocks. But there were rocks being thrown at his tent. And one of the guys in the tent next to him finally just was like, put his head out the tent and yelled something, and a rock hit him in the head. And that's where the dude that's in my chair getting his haircut from me, telling me the story, he says, I must have passed out from fear because the next thing I know, it's morning and everybody's outside the tents packing up and we're getting out of there. They had no idea what it was. They didn't know if they were going to get killed by people, what's going on, but they left. And on their way out of there, they heard footsteps following them from both sides of the woods. And he says they stop, and suddenly ahead of them on this trail that they're walking down, and it's kind of a wide trail, he says this creature, I think he said about 8.5 feet tall, steps out. I know a bunch of you are like, oh, here it goes, just stupid. Fine, till it happens to you. This thing steps out, and the way he described it is this step was so long, how it went across that road so smooth and easy in one step. And then he says, it's like you and I, we would turn our heads and look if we saw somebody. We just kind of like that. This thing didn't turn its head. Its entire upper body shifted sideways, where its feet are going one way, but its body turned sideways, looked at them. He said it had such massive shoulders that you don't see a neck on it. It's like a head attached to these ginormous shoulders, and it had hair all over its body. He couldn't describe the face very well because of the shadow and all that, the depth of the thickness of the woods and the shadowing, so you couldn't see details. But the thing looked over at them and then stepped across and disappeared, as if to say, I dare you to cross this line. They all sat for such a long time, terrified, didn't know what to do, till finally somebody got up the courage, let's run, and they started running. So anyway, there are things that people see and witness, and I've talked to other people that have witnessed Sasquatch, and I could share some things with you, but I'm not going to go there right now. But I want to go back to this experience with me in Connecticut. So I saw that mountain lion cruise across the street in front of me, and I was so like, I thought it was just so neat to see a creature like that right in front of me, and glad I was in my car. Although it looked like a giant, beautiful cat, but just like that bear looked like a beautiful dog, but you go pet it, it might snap at you. And if you've ever heard a bear snap with its jaws, it's crazy. And you don't want to mess with mountain lions. And I'm very glad I was in my car. And so that thing cruised across the street. Why didn't you film it? Why didn't you get I didn't have time. By the time I thought about my camera and getting it out, my phone and taking pictures, it was gone. But sometimes your eyes are so glued to something like that, you just don't want to miss the details, because it's when it happens to you in real life, maybe you're quick enough to whip out your phone and try to catch something like that, like those blurry Bigfoot videos, and you're wondering, how come they're all blurry? Well, what you do it. You film one if you see it happen unexpectedly. It's not like somebody's going out, let me film Bigfoot, and then suddenly they see it, Not all the time anyway. Well, anyhow, when I got to my girlfriend's parents' house, I was headed to their house. She was over there. And when I got inside, I told everybody about what I saw, and nobody believed me. She did a little bit. She kind of did, and so she reported it. She's like, well, we better call it and report it. But her mom and dad were like, we don't have mountain lions in Connecticut. They're not out here. We don't have them. I'm like, well, yeah, you do. I saw it. No, it must have been a deer. I must have been confusing it for something. I'm like, no. And when I told other people about it in the town, it's almost like they thought I was that, oh, you're a San Diego guy. Of course, you're a hippie stoner surfer, probably were seeing things. You're probably super high and seeing things. And I'm like, man, I just saw a mountain lion. Everybody's acting like I saw a UFO or Bigfoot. And you're trying to convince people you saw just a mountain lion. See, here's what I'm trying to tell you guys. I saw something that's known to exist. People don't see them all the time in their life. How many people do you know? You might know some, but you don't come across people every day that say, yeah, I saw a mountain lion. Just doesn't happen. Maybe in the zoo, maybe on TV, but in real life, right in front of you, not a lot of people. But I saw something organic and something that was right in front of my eyes. That's a real creature, but just because they claim they don't have mountain lions in Connecticut, must not happen. I must have been on something, right? I must have been high and seeing things. So anyway, I saw something that's known to exist and people didn't believe me. I didn't mistake the mountain lion for a deer. I didn't mistake it for a bear. I didn't mistake it for a bobcat. I didn't mistake it for an oversized house cat. That was a mountain lion. I know what they are. I know what a cougar looks like. That was it. Okay. So I didn't mistake it for something else. Just like people that, oh, you saw a big fat bear stand up all the time. It's probably a bear, right? No, when people describe them, it's nothing like a bear. If anything, it looks more human. And I will make a video about what I believe these are, what my opinion is. I'm not saying conclusions. I'm just going to share my opinion, and I'll share some stuff in the book of Enoch with you. Perhaps something that's in the book of Jasher about men turning into apes. And maybe some biblical things as well, just to tie everything in. But anyway, I'm not going to do that today, though. But see, I'm seeing something that people know exists, and still nobody wanted to believe me except the girl that I was dating. She believed me, kind of. I'm not sure if she really did, but she acted like she did. So anyway, so if people don't believe you about something that everybody knows exists, then when you tell them about UFOs, like a flying ball of something that looks like tungsten. I'm not saying it's tungsten, just like the John that wrote the book of Revelation. He's describing this thing in heaven that he's witnessing, something like a sea of glass. Well, when you go to the book of Genesis, right? Oh, so you got the first book of the Bible and the last book of the Bible. Interesting how Genesis and Revelation, if you connect those two, how powerful it is. But Genesis talks about a firmament. And the firmament, when you go into a deep research, you might find out that that's what John was actually seeing. Something like. He didn't say it is a sea of glass. It's like a sea of glass. Just like if you were to describe an old school television, maybe one of those black and white televisions with the knob that turns. It has the box, and then it had this glass type, whatever that, if that was glass or what kind of thing, that the screen, and the screens weren't always flat. They kind of bowed out a little bit, and the firmament is known to bend around Earth. And some people don't believe in a firmament, but the Bible talks about it. So anyhow, but you could describe that TV thing. If you were John warping into the future and seeing television, you wouldn't write to people 2,000 years ago and say they had TVs. People would be like, what's a TV? They wouldn't know. But if you're trying to describe, there were people inside of this little box and something like a sea of glass over the box where you could see these people in there. Can you imagine trying to describe a television to people 2,000 years ago? Nobody would be able to describe it well, right? And understand it. They would do the best they can, but what everybody else would be understanding would be so far off from what John had seen if he warped into our time. So John sees something in Revelation like a sea of glass, I look up in the sky right before I start this video, which was 35 minutes ago, and I see something like a ball of tungsten. So I'm not saying it was tungsten, but I'm saying it was cruising through the sky, and, you know, I can, you know, when I parked my car at the light, you if it was one of those drones, you would hear this thing I didn't hear any noise. I mean, I have my windows closed, sure, but I don't know any ball of steel drones that look like a ball of steel or ball of tungsten, and pretty big. Like I said, maybe like one of those gym workout balls, maybe even bigger than that. I don't know, give or take, I said. But you know, here's the thing, you guys. It's appearing more and more. These things are showing up more and more. You know, the Bible says that there's going to be things that show up on earth, things that are going to happen that men are going to faint out of fear. Faint out of fear for the things that are coming upon the earth. Crazy things. This isn't to fear you. And can I prepare you? I mean, how does that prepare you? Prepare like to what? Battle those things? Prepare to get your phones out and film them? Prepare, what are you going to say to them if somebody steps out and says, take me to your leader? You know, can you actually prepare for that? Could you prepare for what happened in 2019? Could you have been prepared for that? Could you predict it or prepare what to do? No, people panicked when the thing happened, right? We started seeing panicking during 2020, lots of it. Nobody could buy toilet paper because people panicked so much they hoarded toilet paper. We need supplies. They didn't think about nobody else. They just thought about themselves, right? How do you prepare for something like that? I didn't own any masks. I didn't have a house full of masks. You know, they were things that you do afterward. But to be aware, that's why prophecy is given, to get people aware. And here's the most important thing. Now, a bunch of you guys are going to call me religious and not like this channel because I talk about Jesus. I'm not here to not talk about Jesus or to push Jesus down your throat. I'm just going to say, like the whole, what I said earlier about my opinion. I'll give you my opinion about Sasquatch, what I think they are and all. But I also will give you my opinion from what I believe, though. I believe it. So for you, it's my opinion, but for me, it's what I believe. But if you want to hear more about Bigfoot or Sasquatch, definitely go to Wes Germer's Sasquatch Chronicles podcast. Amazing. Just download podcasts, or he even has a Sasquatch Chronicles app. Become a member. I highly encourage you to become a member because you get extra bonus shows, which are, I can't get enough of them. So I'm very fascinated by it. Very. So anyhow, where was I? Okay. Yeah, preparing. How do you prepare for it? Well, so my opinion, but my belief is that's what I got Christ in my life for, you guys, because there might be some things that show up that are very different than you could imagine. And we don't know how to explain it, but here they are, and their technology is super advanced, and they look like different beings if we see them, if we do. If we don't see these things, if they don't show up, there's no such thing, but then we have the threat of other stuff, war, bombs, nukes, all that kind of stuff. Do you have a shield at home to protect you from a nuke? Is a mask going to do it? Is your underground basement going to do it? Did you build your house out of pure tungsten? Or, I mean, how do you prepare for a nuke? How do you actually prepare for it? I know people have made stupid, video commercials about, oh, if we have nukes, here's what you do. Stay calm. Stay inside your house. Stay calm. Tell people to stay calm. Oh, thank you for saying stay calm. If you didn't tell me to stay calm, I probably wouldn't have known that. Easier said than done. So I can't tell people, okay, so here's what you're going to do. Stay calm. Put your trust in Jesus. Put your trust in Jesus. So last minute, put your trust in Jesus. No, I mean, how many people that believe in Jesus and say they put their trust in Jesus during the whole, C-19, let's call it, and the close downs and the masks and the magic potion. How many people actually didn't say, you know what, I'm putting my trust in Jesus. I'm cool with this. And how many people did stuff that they never imagined they would do? Like, for instance, the Jehovah's Witnesses, they have a song, go forward, you witnesses, da-na-na-na-na. It's like this song about being bold and fearless. When everything shut down, when they said that no matter what the government tells us to do, we're always going to be out preaching, we're always going to have our kingdom halls open, we'll be getting together in homes privately. No, they didn't. They didn't go out and do the preaching and all that. Now that everything is back open a little bit, now they're boldless and fearless again. And that goes for Christians too. Oh, if the government's ever tried to shut us all down, we're still going to go to church, we're still going to do this. Yeah, maybe a few did and got in trouble and got arrested, but there's a bunch of them that didn't. All the talk that they used to do was just talk, just like the Jehovah's Witnesses. I used to be one. A whole bunch of talk. All talk, no action, right? Nothing to back it up. So all these people that I would be boldless and fearless, no, people were terrified. So even with people that say they believe in Jesus, they still succumb to fear. I believe in Jesus. I see a mountain lion right in front of me. Go. Am I going to stay calm? Go in Jesus' name. Or am I going to be like, whoa, is my heart going to do a little something? Is my adrenaline going to shoot up high? Right? How do you prepare for something like that? So all I'm saying is, nukes come, something happens, terror. Well, if I die in this body, I do believe that I have a spirit, and I do believe I have a soul. There is a difference, I believe, but well connected. And my spirit and soul, what kind of realm do they enter? Because there's some people that I don't believe in God. I don't want nothing to do with God. I'm an atheist, and I'm not going to believe, blah, blah, okay. So if you do exit your body, I'm not saying hellfire. I'm not teaching this stuff right now. I'm just saying a different way to think of things. We all should actually think about it. And I'm not saying believe in Jesus just in case you die so you go to heaven. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there is a security. His name means security, by the way. Security, safety, peace, security, safety, salvation, Yeshua. It's all in there. Healer. It's all in there. The name Yeshua, Jesus, is compacted full of so many different awesome meanings, you guys. Is beautiful. So there's a security that comes with having Christ in your life. It's beyond religion. It's so personal. It's amazing. And I'm not confident that when I step out of my body because I did a bunch of religious good stuff, or because I teach on YouTube, or because I read the Bible, or I'm not saying it's anything about what I've done, what I'm doing, what I'm not doing. I'm saying I believe that he loves me. I don't know why. I wouldn't love me if I was him, right? I'm just saying, but he loves me. And I believe, I used to not believe this way, but I believe if I step out of my body, no matter what, I believe I enter into the realm where the presence of God is. I believe God is love. I believe God is light. I believe God is life. So I am stepping out of my earth suit, if you will, and I'm going into another realm. And it's a realm with the presence of God. And I want God in my life, not because I'm scared that if I don't have God, that like I'm scared of God, I better have him or else. No, I actually want God in my life. I want to be where God is. Now, some people don't, and that's their choice, right? So when they step out of their body, is that something that's given to you to honor your wishes, where you can be in a godless environment? No God. Now, whatever that environment looks like, you might read things in the Bible, description, a place of darkness, weeping, gnashing teeth, place of fire, whatever you want to call it. I mean, if there's a bunch of fire, how can it be a dark place, right? Dark and fire, what is it? I don't know how to describe it. And I don't care to describe it. I have studied it so much and I still can't describe it. Just like I can't really describe heaven. I can tell you the heavenly descriptions from what I've read, but I've never been there myself that I can even remember anyway. Spirit, yeah, my spirit's in heaven and on earth at the same time. See it in Christ and see it here. So, but my mind doesn't know what it looks like. And so I'm just saying, you step out of your body, and if you don't want God, and he honors those wishes of ours. You don't want it because you don't believe it. All that does is takes believing. So if you want to step out and believe in an environment for no God as you wish, and so now you have an environment of no God. God is life. I suppose that environment's death. God is light. I suppose that environment is darkness. God is love. So what would that make that environment? But you know, there's a peace and a true security that comes with Christ. There's false peace and security. Scripture does talk about it and saying that the world will believe in a false peace and security. They'll shout out peace and security at last, but then that false peace and security brings nothing but destruction. That's not peace and security. It's opposite. So it's just good to think about these things. And what I'm saying is, whatever happens and whatever manifests here, whether it's things in the sky that you can't explain or there's missiles coming down because people went cuckoo and waging war, because you're going to hear of not only rumors of wars the Bible talks about, Jesus spoke about, but you'll hear of wars as well. And so I choose Christ. And no matter what happens to me, I'm going to be with him. And you can be with him too. But if he's not for you, then wherever you go, it'll be a Christless. And Christ and God go hand in hand. So it'll be a Christless, godless environment. And I guess that's it. So, I love you guys. I'm glad you watched. If you want to talk more about these types of things, I would love to. I'm interested in a whole lot of things. I even make workout videos now that I share. So anyhow, have a great one. Leave some comments and we'll talk more. See ya.